Welcome back, everyone, to another update episode with two of my friends here, Melissa and Tiffany, as they share with us what things have been like since they were on the podcast last. And time flies. It's been a while since they came on the show and shared their full story. Those episodes you can also check out if something that they share in the update episode here that you can relate to. Incredible stories, incredible journeys. So grateful to have them on and share this update with us. There's two other quick things I want to mention right before we get into this episode. If you haven't left a review on Apple or Spotify yet, please jump over there and do that. Leave a written review on Apple, 5 stars on Spotify. That would mean the world for the podcast if you're enjoying it, if you're getting something out of it. And also, if you're looking to plug into an incredibly supportive community, I would like for you to consider joining Sober Motivation. It's an incredible community. We have meetings every day over Zoom, also a 24/7 chat community. A lot of great people. The relationships are a big part of what helped me stay sober. And there's a lot of people out there with different circumstances and maybe struggling to find that connection with others with similar stories. And I promise you that somebody in the Sober Motivation community is going to be able to relate to your story. And a lot of us are going to be able to relate to a lot of aspects of it. So if you could use some community, some extra support in your journey, I'll drop the link down in the show notes below. Check out the free trial and see if it's for you. Now let's hear from Melissa. Welcome back, everyone, to another update episode on the podcast. Today we've got my good friend, Melissa, a.k.a. the Sober New Yorker. How are you?
Hi, Brad. I'm great. You didn't say the accent.
I tried, but maybe it's the sickness.
The Sober New Yorker. Come on. I'm awesome. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we've gotten to know each other pretty good over the last year or months or whatever it's been. And it's been exciting to watch you grow in your journey and everything that you're doing. I can't remember exactly when we connected the first time on the podcast. You probably have a better idea of it.
I do. I have a memory like a tortoise. It was June of last year, June of 24. So almost a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. I can't believe it. A lot has happened in a year. Last June, I was just getting underway with my coaching certification. I think I had just started my podcast with, you did that podcast, a mentorship course. And I think I had just started maybe my first episode or two. And now I've got, like 32 episodes have rolled out. So yeah, that's been amazing. I just love sitting down with people, and sometimes I know their story ahead of time. There's a lot of people from the Sober Motivation community. I shouldn't say a lot, but a handful that have sat down with me. And then there are some random people that I've been following on Instagram. I reach out and say, hey, like, I want to hear what you're all about. And they come into the studio and I have no idea. And that's exciting for me because it's often, a really good, interesting story. And I can relate to so much of it because I've done the same thing. Anyone who removes alcohol from their life has a pretty good story to tell. So that has been a really fulfilling part of my life, that podcast. Thanks to you.
Well, thank you. It's great work. I mean, it is really, you get to hear the resilience in people and what they build and where they've come from and what their journey's been like. And there are so many similarities, I feel, to a lot of the different stories that we hear. Where you're at now in your journey, what are you experiencing?
Oh, gosh, I'm experiencing still so much joy, so much profound happiness. And I also feel like I'm to this place where if I want to do something, if I see or feel that there's something I want to do, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to figure out a way to do it or dive in. And if it scares me, it means I should do it.
Yeah.
If I want to get uncomfortable, I grow. I'm just to this place where I don't know, life is short. And maybe because I'm a few years older and I came to this sobriety thing in my 50s, maybe I'm making up for lost time. But I live in one of the greatest cities of the world, and I have so much opportunity just at my fingertips for getting out there and doing things. And so for the last year, I have joined the New York Toastmasters Club, this public speaking club. A year ago with you, I had no idea what a Toastmaster even was. And now I am an official member, and I'm ready to give my first speech next week. I can hardly wait. And it's a community that only knows me as a non-drinker, which is really cool. Made up of incredibly diverse people because it's New York, and all different ages. They go across the street to an Irish bar after every meeting. And at first I thought, do I mean, I could do that, right? But do I really want to? Well, it turns out the head of our organization, the president, is 26 years sober. We came to find that out about each other. So now when he makes that announcement about going across the street to the bar, he looks right at me and says, we go across the street to the bar for non-alcoholic or alcoholic drinks. And, he never did that before he met me, because maybe there are some other people in that room that are thinking the same thing. And I've been to that bar now a couple times, and it's so natural to sit in that bar and connect with people I don't know, have a seltzer and grapefruit, and just feel like a normal person who doesn't have to sit at a bar and chug drinks to get a buzz on. That has been a really big, beautiful part of my Monday nights in New York. If there's something I want to do, I'm going to do it. I'm at this point in my life where my children are growing up and leaving the house and launching, and I am cultivating my own experiences. And the fact that alcohol is no longer here holding me back gives me time to do a lot with my life. And it's just a beautiful thing. And I don't regret one day that I wake up and not, that I made the decision to stop drinking. It was just been the most beautiful decision I ever made.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing all that too. And it's interesting. A few things you mentioned there too, right? Like, I don't know the exact terminology used for it, but a little bit older in kind of, getting to this point, making that decision. I mean, come on, like 80% of the people that I talk to probably are in or close or near to your age in a sense. What do you think that's all about?
Oh boy, I think that's about the age, the decades we grew up in. I came of age in the 80s and early 90s, and that's what we did. We gathered and we drank. We didn't have social media. We didn't have those things right at our fingertips. We socialized in person, right? And that meant grabbing a few beers and going out and doing the same thing. The kids today, there's a decrease in drinking, and a lot of it might have to do with that. The fact that there isn't that in-person connection as much. I don't know. That would be an interesting study, but it's definitely a generational thing. And then I think as we got older, the mommy wine culture, at least for me, was I came of age with my kids when that was emerging. And we got sold this bullshit that raising our kids was really hard, and wine at the end of the day was going to make it easier. And all the merch that went with it, right? The tea towels and the rosé all day t-shirts and the birthday cards you got with happy birthday, Mom. It looks like you really need a glass of wine. And it was really, we were in the middle of that. So when we get to the point, the pandemic socked us. It socked us. The women that I work with, they are not, for the most part, in their 30s. I've worked with one woman in her 30s. The women I work with are like 43 and up, 43 to 68. And that's my age range. And that sandwich generation, I like to call it, where our children are growing up and leaving our house, but our parents are getting older. So we're caring for them as well. We're stuck in the middle. And are we caring for ourselves, or are we constantly putting our priorities into other people's care? And we lose sight of ourselves. I mean, I'm speaking 100% for myself and a lot of women I know, that we just stop showing up for ourselves. And before you know it, we're sitting on the couch, chugging rosé, doom scrolling, waiting for my husband to get home, wondering where the hell my life is going to go. And is this it? Is this it for my life? And that was a very bleak picture. It doesn't have to be that way. You know, this gray area drinking, you don't have to wait for a rock bottom. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's so interesting to kind of look at sort of too, how growing up plays a role in sort of what we see and how normalized alcohol maybe was in that generation. I mean, it's not one that I'm necessarily a part of, but how normalized it was. And, I think if you just see a one-off thing, right, of targeting a mommy wine culture, you see one thing. Okay, you see one thing, but the reality is, it was everywhere. A lot of people have mentioned that. It's when you see something over and over and over and over and over again, it just makes it very, normal to kind of get wrapped up into it. And then we also have like the, alcohol being a drug that's addictive, right? And then that happens over time too. And then you share where people might find themselves. What do you feel like is the biggest challenge, and like was for you even too, right? Because you hear some people mention, it's the way it's always been. It's the way it's always going to be. Can't teach an old dog new tricks. You kind of hear those things maybe too. Like, how was it that you were able to say, accept this is where you are and be honest about moving forward?
I think for me, I just had to cut through all of those limiting beliefs that said, I won't be able to have fun without alcohol. I won't be able to have those big weekend getaways with my family. I won't be able to have vacation. I won't be able to enjoy myself at a wedding, at a family reunion. I won't be able to enjoy myself at a party without alcohol. That was just a huge factor in holding me back, because I was the party girl. In fact, I spoke to a quick story. I spoke to a friend over the weekend, a college friend. Haven't spoke to him in a long time. He was connecting with his dad, mid-80s, with dementia, and his dad was asking about his old college friends. And he was going down the list, and he said, now what about that party girl? And my friend Scott said, you mean the tall, was she tall, blonde? Yeah, that one. That was me. That was the party girl. Here, this guy is 85 years old with dementia, and he still remembers me, the party girl from 35 years ago. Like, that was me. Wow. That was my narrative for so long. That was a big thing holding me back. Like, I looked forward to those parties. I looked forward to those weekends away, because that was my right to relax and have fun and kick it. I didn't turn into a mean, angry drunk. Listen, the next day was another story sometimes. But so how would I do that without alcohol? That kept me stuck for so long. And the breaks that I did have, those doctor breaks when my liver enzymes went up, those 3 or 4 weeks here and there, I felt so good that it gave me an idea that maybe maybe this is possible, because the feeling, that good feeling in my body, in my head, kind of started to outweigh that, very short, artificial, fake, drunk feeling of one night. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's and I love that you brought that up too, the limiting beliefs about how all kind of like myths, quote unquote, the myths of alcohol. Well, life's not going to be fun anymore. And how am I going to do this? And of course, there's like that learning period that takes place probably in the first 6 months about reintroducing ourselves to, these different events and stuff we have to go to, and how are we going to get more comfortable. But I always mention to people too that identify with that gray area drinking, their life may be not completely derailed from drinking, but this is what I see one of the most damaging things of keeping alcohol in our life. If we're in that space, every time something comes up, we're not getting uncomfortable in developing healthy strategies of moving through stress, overwhelm, disappointment. The longer we keep alcohol in our life, the more we lean on it, the less and less we develop the other strategies. And that's why a lot of people relate to, we used to talk about it in this one addiction program I worked at about, sort of the growth, the emotional growth. A lot of people relate to it that things stopped, they feel like they stopped growing emotionally in some sense when they started drinking, and as they became maybe a solution or a pastime of dealing with life. And the longer that goes on, and then when we quit, it's like I always say, the magic can't happen if we're still drinking. You have to quit drinking and allow for the rest of the stuff to flow into your life. And it's going to be tough. What were some of the big things that helped you out or continues to help you out if you're still plugging in? Also, too, on when you share that every time, Melissa, I don't know if you've ever had this experience in life, but you hear people who have changed their life, right? And they're sharing what life is like now. And for some reason, I can't see you being any different than kind of the go-getter you are right now. But you're telling me that's been kind of a big shift in some ways in your life.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I have been a go-getter for sure. But have I been as big of a go-getter as I am now? Not in a very long time.
Okay.
I have a client right now, and I don't want to take credit for this because she said something so poignant that I am constantly bringing it up in groups and with other people. She came to me and she said, I don't know what it feels like to be firing on all cylinders. I don't know what it feels like to be firing on all cylinders. And I think when you're drinking, even if it is that gray area drinking, it's still, it could be, you might be firing on 60, 70, 80% cylinders, which is a pretty good percentage. But what about that 30, 20, 10% that you're missing, right? What if you remove the booze and then you make it 100%? And I just love that visual of taking your car into the shop and there's a blockage. I have no idea about cars, so I'm just kind of making all this up right now. But like if there's like a sock stuck somewhere in your cylinder and they remove it and they said, oh my God, there's a sock stuck here. Well, no wonder you were only operating at 70%. So having that, now you're at 100%. Holy shit. And that's what it feels like for me. Yeah, I was super high functioning. I could show up to my work. I could set goals. I was going to the gym. I was keeping in relatively good shape. But once I took that sock out of my cylinder, I mean, we're talking like jetpack rocket fuel, because there's no block in my way. And that's what I mean when I'm saying, like, I can do anything. There's no block. It's an open road. And if I want to set a goal, I have completely become this goal-oriented person, which before, not so much. Maybe in my head, But now I'm thinking like 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. That never happened before. That never happened before. I'm thinking big. Alcohol kept me small. And I don't want to play small anymore. Now that I'm not drinking, it's big or go home. And I'm firing on all cylinders. And if people can just get that in their head, that don't you owe it to yourself to just try and see what that looks like?
Yeah, I would say 110%,
Yeah.
try it out and figure it out. That's the other kind of, flip side of things too, is I think there are a lot of people who do try it out. And not to say they're doing it wrong or, they're doing it right. But a lot of the stories I hear too on the side of things is people just want to do it all on their own. I mean, for decades, Melissa, people will just kind of secretly try to just go at this all on their own. And I think it's the shame and everything that's involved with it, right? Not wanting to share with other people. But my goodness, doesn't it blow the door right off the hinges when you get in a room with other people, whether it be in person or online or wherever, and it's like, man, they're sharing my story. They're talking my language. They understand. We do it in all other areas of our life, right? Like a simple example, right? If I need my oil changed or I need my tires changed, I have no problem going to the mechanic and asking for help. Like, I just don't have any problem. And there's that struggle, I think, with a lot of us too. And I think we all kind of, in one way or another, kind of go through that phase, right? I always had the thought process of, I got myself here. Oh my gosh, if they knew, the people close to me, what was really going on in my life, like maybe they'll think differently of me or think less than of me. But the reality was I had to put that aside and get the help and support that I needed. My earliest mentor, Andy, because I was, even when I started kind of trying to tread water a little bit, come out of this hole I dug for myself, I was still wanting to do everything my way, right? I would pick up on the things that were easy, that wouldn't push my comfort zone too much. And Andy pulled me aside after this meeting one day where, we're in this church, which, it was a whole nother thing. But he told me, Brad, he said, your best ideas, man, your best thinking, dude, look at where it's landed you. You're going to have to listen to some other people, man. You're going to have to follow a couple ideas that other people have, because you're not going to be able to think your way on your own out of this. How did that change for you, kind of plugging in and thoughts on any of that?
That was huge. That was everything, because I gave this a pretty valiant effort right before the pandemic, 4 months on my own, following a couple communities on Facebook, that kind of thing, listening to podcasts, Quit Lit, all that kind of stuff that people do initially on their own. And that, that day the pandemic kind of started in New York, I didn't have anyone to call on when I said, I want to have a beer. And if I did, it could have been a lot different. So building that muscle, having that community, which leads to, you enter a room, whether it's virtual or in person, it leads to relationships. It leads to people you start to know. Some you get to meet in person. I've met a lot of really incredible sober people in person through retreats, through my coaching program. We all got together. I mean, talk about like the vibe. It's just electric when you are with people that don't drink alcohol and are just bettering themselves. And I mean, it's just, it's hard to describe. I'm not doing it justice. But when you get to know these people and you exchange numbers and you check in. I mean, just last night I got home and I hadn't heard from someone in a while. And actually she texted me and I totally forgotten. So I texted her back and then it was like, how are you? And when we had this exchange for a while and we know we can depend on each other and we have those relationships. So I know if I'm in a crunch, I know if I need help, I have a whole Rolodex. How about that word? Of people that I can call on. But that's also a muscle that you need to work. That's also a muscle that you need to build. calling for help, because you're right. We use that. We use, people help us with all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. Your dishwasher, I go to my local grocery store, and I'm usually the tallest person. I'm always constantly helping people get things off the highest shelf in the grocery store.
Can you get those beans? Can you get that can of beans up there for me?
I swear to God. But it's a great way to think about it. Why wouldn't you ask for help if you're stuck in a spot where you think you're feeling that you might drink, or you're going through a tough spot? And call a friend, text a friend. And I mean, that's what we're there for. You have to lean on the people that know it. And community was a game changer for me. Game changer. I'm going to be 2 years sober in August. That's just unfucking believable. Really?
Right. August what? What's the date? Is it
August 14th. August 14th.
That's the day after my birthday.
Your August 13th birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I'll never forget that now. The day after.
Yeah.
I'll celebrate my birthday really quick, and then we'll celebrate yours.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it too. And I think we have to get warmed up to letting other people help us. You ask people, I do anyway, ask people a lot of the time when they're in this journey. I say, hey, when you were going through this, did you know any sober people? Most people are like, no, I didn't know anybody who wasn't drinking or that was sober. And that's another thing I think. We'll just plug in, see what it's about. Wherever people land too. I mean, you can land in a ton of different places. But I was thinking too, I'm just looking at where I live here, and in Ontario, we have a lot of great services for addiction and mental health and everything. But just listening to this recent minister of mental health and addictions, and I don't know if it relays across the US, but a lot of these services in the places where I used to work, they're for like crisis. So if you're in a crisis, or I don't know that there's really the exploration services out there of like, hey, I just kind of want to dip my toe in and see where I'm at. I want to talk with somebody and get involved with other people. It's not really like that. It's kind of like the hospital or the detox or the 6-month, treatment program. And then there are like therapists on the side. So I think that's a big role that, online communities and coaching and all of those things can help people sort of explore, because I think that's a really important part of the process. I meet with people too in my mentorship program, and everybody's like, I'm so unsure where to start. I don't know what this is going to be like. And I'm like, hey, we're going to have a conversation and just see where things are at. What are your goals? Where do you want to go? I'm not here telling people what to do. Like, you do this and you do that. And like, it's not like that. That's not going to get us all, very far. Right. It's just about seeing where people want to land, and it takes time, but getting some support and somebody who's kind of got the vision for the roadmap and how it goes, I think can be so helpful. Anything else, Melissa? 2 years too, like, wow, time's flying. And it's been great to have you in the sober motivation community. And it's so incredible to watch everything that, you're moving on, and you're heading over to see our friend Sober Dave here soon. And, so many cool things. Anything else you want to mention before we sign off?
I think that's it. Just thank you for having me back and checking in. And, I just want to remind everyone that it's never too late. Like, that's what I get to say. And that's a good point you bring up about, you don't have to dive in and say, I'm going to be sober right now. It's a process about getting curious with yourself. It's trying it on for size, right? It's, let me try this on for size. Let me see how I feel, and take it small goals at a time. Give yourself 7 days. Keep moving the goalpost. See how you feel after, keep moving that goalpost and try it on for size. And if it fits good and if it feels good, then keep it on. Yeah. Keep it on.
Yeah. I'm trying to wrap my head around the other side of that too. I think we have to be honest with ourselves, but like, it's going to feel good. It's going to feel
really fucking good.
Yeah. Like, you have to hang in there for a bit. Obviously, like, some people relate to the story of things can get worse before they get better, because we've been avoiding emotions and numbing them. And, then when you stop drinking, things can really kind of flow in. So it can feel a little bit heavy, but like, you stick with it, you develop as you go. And then I think when we first start, you mentioned earlier, when you first give up, you're like, how, in so many areas of life, how am I going to do it without alcohol? Now in my life, I'm to the opposite of that, to where in the beginning I felt that like, oh my gosh, this plays such a important role in my life, alcohol does. And then now I'm at this place where I could not imagine my life drinking alcohol.
No. Yeah.
So completely, it shifts. It takes time, but then you get to the other side of it to where it's like, oh my goodness, I see it for what it is. And, my life is improving in all of these areas, or has improved in all of these areas. And the sky's really the limit,
It really is. That's exactly it. Yeah. And I have a place on the moon, so if you ever want to come visit.
Well, if you do, then can we get Starlink for our buddy Ryan, if you got connections to that too?
That's right. Yeah, we need to get him a better connection for sure.
Well, Melissa, thank you so much for dropping in and sharing with us. Great to see you as always.
A pleasure, Brad. Always good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Well, there it is. Incredible update from our friend Melissa. Hopefully you guys are all right. I'm a little bit under the weather, if you couldn't tell from listening to that highlight there when Melissa and I recorded this. But thank you guys for checking it out. If you enjoyed or can relate to any of it, be sure to send Melissa over a message on Instagram. I get to see a lot of Melissa, not only hosting a meeting a week inside of the Sober Motivation community, but also attending a bunch of meetings and really plugging in. These are the people, I got to be honest with you, who I see really make big strides in this whole journey of sobriety and giving up drinking. And it's incredible to see. It's incredible to see somebody else make, so much progress, right? I think a lot of us go into this like, come on, can quitting alcohol really improve my life? And there you go. That's a story of it doing just that, from getting sober. Now let's check out Tiffany's update story. Welcome back to another update today. We've got my friend Tiffany Jenkins with us. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be back. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. It was a great time when we connected too, for you to share your full story. We're here for an update to see how things have been going for you, since. And is there somewhere you want to kick things off with too? And you've got something else in the works too, hopefully you'll share with us.
Yes. So much is new since we last spoke. I'm still sober. The last November, I celebrated 12 years. I went through a divorce about 2 years ago, which was really one of the toughest things I've gone through on my sobriety journey. And there was definitely moments where the idea of escaping was very tempting, but thankfully I had a really good foundation of recovery and really cool friends around me who kind of helped come sit with me all night while I cried. And so I'm really grateful to the people who helped pull me through that. So everything is different. I have my children half the time now. So there's a whole other half of my life that I have to figure out what to do with my hands when they're not around, because I'm so used to being a mom all the time that, to have a week without them, I'm trying to discover who I am. But yeah, other than that, I've kind of slowed down on making videos, and I've been doing podcasts more. I host a couple of podcasts and wrote my second book.
Yeah, which is interesting. You've been doing that, just on that note, for, making videos and social media and all that stuff. I mean, you've been doing this for some time, right? Is there something that creatively is sparking you in the direction of podcasting instead of maybe the short form video that goes so quick that everybody seems to enjoy? Or
Well, that's the thing for me. Without sounding too much like a whiner, the videos that I used to make were longer. They were around 4 or 5 minutes prior to TikTok becoming a thing. And so people would actually sit and watch these videos. And then TikTok came out and all of our attention spans shrunk, and it was like quicker, bite-sized videos that go really fast. And for some reason, it just didn't interest me doing videos in that format. I can't explain it. Maybe it's because it was right around the time where my divorce happened and I wasn't feeling funny to begin with. So I kind of stopped making videos altogether. But I think it's hard when this becomes a career, quote unquote, somehow magically it becomes a career, and then you have to do it in order to keep basically, I've been really struggling with figuring out what I want to do for a career. The things that used to interest me, like making comedy videos and things like that, don't anymore. And so I am pivoting, and I am thinking about becoming a certified peer recovery specialist and kind of focusing in more on addiction and that sort of thing, because that gives me purpose. And I feel like the silly videos haven't in a while. Sorry, that was so long and rambly, and I was sorting it out as I was saying it.
No, I mean, thank you so much for sharing it too. And I feel like this stuff you used to do, because I've been a fan of your stuff for a lot longer than you probably have any idea, right? When Facebook sort of first dropped Facebook Watch with the early videos, it was like you and Jay Shetty were like the two that were out there, right? Sort of the early adopters, maybe, in a sense of like that longer form, like 5 minutes plus, or
right. Absolutely. But it's hard for me to fake it. You know what I mean? If I'm not feeling funny, or if I feel like I don't have a message to put out, I can't just make content just to make content. And it has slipped me into like a little bit of the background now. And, things have slowed down tremendously for me in the way of videos and things like that. But I'm at a pivotal point. That's why this book coming out is so crazy, because it isn't the book that I had meant to write. I had written this book, and then life kind of got flipped upside down, and I had to rewrite it. And so now, going around and talking about it, it's like, it's all so new to me also, all of the events that are happening, that I'm still kind of trying to figure out who the heck I am and where I'm going. But I've been putting my recovery first, because I know that anything I put in front of that, I will lose. And so that has been a constant where nothing else feels sure. My recovery and my friends in recovery have been a constant.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a great point to kind of hit home too. Even as things get, like, we don't have all the answers moving forward, but we know that too, the sobriety has to be there and plugging in and getting support too. I think you mentioned that too with the divorce and going through that difficult time, plugging in and finding, people to talk to and all that stuff makes all the difference. What can you share with us about your new book?
Well, the book is basically, you don't have to have read the first book in order to understand this book. I tried to write it in a way that they were independent of each other. This book kind of picks up where the other book left off. So my first book was about my time in jail and the things that led up to my arrest. And this book is about being released into the real world for the first time as a sober adult, having to start over from scratch when all I've ever known is drugs and alcohol. And so it kind of it follows my journey through the halfway house, and then my whirlwind marriage and pregnancy situations. And then unfortunately, I had to touch on the divorce and the things that led up to the divorce, because I couldn't put a book out that didn't match up with what was going on in my life. And I didn't want people to be reading a story about two addicts living happily ever after while looking at my page and being like, wait, she's single. What is this? So I had to make it true to me. But it reads like fiction. Hopefully it's a quick read. That's one of the compliments that I've been getting, is people couldn't put it down. And I love that.
Yeah. Well, that seems to, anytime I see anything pop up about your first book, A High Achiever, is that so many people relate to it, and like there's just I see so many good things about it too, for the impact it's had. Anytime it pops up, or I see your reviews on Amazon or anywhere, so that's great. I'm sure people are going to be excited for kind of the next leg of the story, right? Yeah. It's kind of about the rebuild. I had this story of I was in prison for a year, and I think for a lot of people they're like, oh, that's so difficult. For me, it was like, I'm really good in those structured environments. Like, of course it was difficult. I was away from my family for all the holidays and my birthday. You know what I mean? Like, you don't really get to decide a whole lot what you do, but there was some elements of that I was like, well, this is kind of great, because when I decide, when I'm kind of steering the bus, like I crashed this thing all over the place. When I got out though, was really when the work, really, really kind of started about how am I going to navigate sort of the real world and kind of the rebuild from nothing.
Yeah. And it's a lot, and it's tough for people, especially coming out of jails and coming out of rehabs, because chances are before you got to either of those places, you spent all your money on drugs, and that's why you end up in jail. At least for me, that's what happened. And so when you're starting over, you don't have much to your name. And it's really easy to want to give up and to say, screw this, I'm going to go back to all I've ever known. Yeah. And I think that the fact that I didn't, yet is incredible. And I can't take any credit for it. It's all the people, it's all my friends. Really, they have carried me through. So right now I'm going through a little bit of a tough time. I'm actually in trouble with my sponsor. I have an extra assignment because I have been isolating and not really talking about what's going on with me. I've been throwing pity parties for myself alone. So finally, when we had our sponsorship family meeting, I just got honest and let everybody know my truth, which was I'm struggling to leave the house. There's days I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to socialize. I don't want to talk to people. It's too exhausting. And I told her all this. And so she's making me text the group chat every single morning a full gratitude list. And I have to text her every day and pray in the morning and pray at night, which is something that I also got away from also. So I can't sit here and say like I'm a shining example because I am struggling also, but I'm not getting high over it. And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's sort of what we realize as we go through this too, is like the big mountain to climb at first is to sober up. And then it's like, okay, life keeps happening and we have to still, learn. There's like, I'm a firm believer too, that there's levels to it in a sense, the first level of Mario is a lot easier than the 100th level of Mario. You have to be a different player. You have to have different strategy going into the different things. I mean, in being honest about it, like I'm with you too. I do a lot of these shows. I work with a lot of people. I'm no expert. I don't have it all figured out. My life is not in this perfect picture reel that, people might see on Instagram. I got 3 little kids and, I'm just trying to figure things out as I go and trying to, do the best. But I think what kind of even circling back to what you said before, right, is sobriety's got to come first.
Yes.
I know. And from you sharing that, that without that, like we start losing stuff and we start losing stuff fast or giving it away. Some people say giving it away, but it starts falling apart fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's times where I will wonder, why am I so upset? Why am I so uneasy? Why can't I just be happy? And it's because I stopped going to meetings. I stopped calling my sponsor as much. I stopped connecting with other people. Those things are crucial for me in my recovery. And so it doesn't take long for me to realize like I'm straying too far away. And that's why I feel uneasy. And so I'm back to the basics of doing the exact opposite of what the old me would have done. That's when I first got sober. That's what my sponsor said. When you have trouble making decisions, just do the opposite of what you would have done before. And that really helped me. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm trying to do the opposite of what last month me would have done. You know what I mean? Like let the laundry pile up for weeks at a time and then complain about the pile of laundry, but not do anything about it. The new me still definitely complains for sure, but does something about it. And so I'm back to the basics right now. And it's good. It's really, I'm happy that they have so many simple, easy mantras and daily things that you can say and do that are quick to just grab out of the air and remind yourself, like, keep it simple. You know what I mean? One day at a time. All those things that used to annoy me, now I'm clinging to them.
Yeah, they say it's there for a reason, right?
Right.
And I think that that's such a great place to ground ourselves, right? With just keeping it simple. And obviously kind of the foundational things and those things that we can kind of track and see how we're doing to see, am I making progress? And kind of, I love that feedback you got too from your sponsor about like just doing the opposite. That's what, one of my earliest mentors always told me, he's like, Brad, your best thinking got you here. Like
Mm-hmm.
you ain't getting yourself out. You got to rely on some other people's experience and started, taking suggestions from other people. You don't have to like everything. You don't have to do everything, but just be open and have a little bit of willingness to try something different.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when do things launch for the book?
So the book is coming out June 3rd, and I'm very excited and very nervous. The first book I self-published myself, and then it was picked up by a publishing company. And nobody knew me really, so there was no pressure. But with this book, there's a lot of fans of the first book who are expecting so much out of the second book, or maybe they're not, and I assume they're expecting, and I'm just overthinking and making it crazy on myself. But I think it's so weird to put something so personal out into the world and know that, like, okay, on June 3rd, everybody's going to know what went down. You know what I mean? In the most private parts of your life, everybody's about to know. It's very scary, but it's super exciting. And I hope it helps people. That's the biggest thing for me, is even if one person reading it is like, okay, thank goodness I'm not alone, then it kind of makes it so that all that stuff that I went through wasn't for nothing.
Yeah. It's like, when you were saying that, I'm just like picturing living in a glass house all of a sudden, where it's kind of like everything is visible, like not, actually doing that, but you sharing on that level. And I was going to ask you that too. What are you hoping, what was the motivation and the thoughts behind it as to be that vulnerable with the world about things that went on? But you mentioned it right there too, right? To help somebody, to support people, right?
Yeah. The intention of the book changed. Like I said earlier, the book was going to be about two addicts surviving life together and living happily ever after. And then that did not. Turns out that's not actually how the story is supposed to end. And so then I found myself having to tell another story, and it's something that I struggled with because I wasn't necessarily ready to tell it at the time. And so the new message is, life is unpredictable. And if you are somebody like me who is used to reaching for a crutch in times of crisis and feel like a life without that is impossible, hopefully through reading my story, people will see it is possible to do motherhood sober. It's possible to do marriage and death and divorce sober. It's all possible as long as you keep putting one foot in front of the other and reaching out for help when you need it.
Yeah. Wow. That hits. That's powerful. Yeah. One foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for jumping on here, for sharing. And I'm excited for you. I know it's going to be great. I know people are going to love it. I mean,
Thank you so much.
It's so important to put those stories out there, I think, too. I talk with a lot of people, right? And I think sometimes people can feel like if they're not doing sobriety a certain way, if it's not the way that other people are doing it, or they're not experiencing maybe what some people are sharing, they're like questioning ourselves or questioning themselves. Am I doing something wrong? Or am I not working hard enough, or doing it right? And I think, these real life stories about even where you're at with your sobriety, about how, things can still be tough at times, I think just really validates sort of the struggle that a lot of us go through, even on this journey of this personal development and growth and in life's curveballs. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. I have no friends. I have no adult grown-up friends. So to be able to talk about my stuff, I mean, I have my friends in recovery, but they've all heard me whining. They're in solution mode now. So that's what it is. They're like, we can only listen to you complain about this same problem so many times before you got to start doing something about it. So thank you for giving me the format to talk openly and honestly. It's new for me. I'm used to coming on podcasts and pretending like I have it all together. And it's just nice to be real, because I feel like you get it. And I feel like your listeners probably understand there's ups and downs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Before we jump here, if from where you're at, right, and from where I'm at too, with everything, like, I'm with you on a lot of this stuff, right? Like, it's a work in progress. There's levels to it. I'm working on things. Coming from that stance too, I mean, what would you mention to somebody too, if they're kind of coming out, you mentioned earlier too, right? Coming into the halfway house and sort of that story, kind of like starting over from scratch. I mean, what was something when you look back that helped you maybe just believe that things could change to keep you around long enough for them to do that?
It was definitely the promises, people in the rooms promising me, all these blessings will come as long as you keep doing the right thing. Everybody in recovery seemed so optimistic and hopeful and happy, like they knew something that I didn't know. So I kind of looked to them for that inspiration and that faith because I couldn't see it myself at the time. But the biggest thing that helped me in the beginning was I tried to fix everything the day I got out. I wanted my license back, my family back, my relationships back, my money back, trust back. I wanted it all back. And when it wasn't happening quickly, I got really impatient. So I think recognizing that like it took a lot of time to get us to this low that we're at, it's going to take a little bit of time to get out. But as long as you take, it's so cliche, take it one day at a time, it really helps.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much, Tiffany. Wishing you all the success on the launch.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
There it is. Tiffany's update. Got to be honest. I was really impressed with the honesty about where things are for Tiffany and with this new book coming out. And I can only imagine how scary that could be to put everything out there so personal into a book, but I love the mission and the drive behind it to help one person who's struggling to maybe see or believe that there's a way out. I can relate to that mission too, as well, for the things I try to put together. Thank you guys for listening to another episode here. Got a story episode coming up next. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier on too, if you could use a little extra support or maybe a lot of extra support. And it doesn't have to be that you're just in the beginning of your journey. We have people as part of the Sober Motivation community from their first day, and we've got people who have years, and we all work together to do the same thing, which is get another day. Thank you guys for tuning in as always, and I'll see you on the next one.